Hey, families, your sister Jocelyn here, and welcome to another episode of Faith on the Journey. If this is your first time tuning in, we welcome you. We are so glad that you are here and want you to know that we're committed to helping you strengthen your faith, heal your heart, and discover a sense of community. And we do so by connecting you with a team of Christian counselors, by offering trauma healing groups throughout the year, and helping churches to start trauma healing ministries across the country. You can learn about these resources and so much more by visiting our website at faithonthejourney.org. Again, that is faithonthejourney.org. Now, today we have someone who I consider family. She has been on the show before. She is my sister in Christ, and she's doing some amazing things. And today she's here to share her testimony. We are welcoming back to the show Minister Kristy Goodwin, who is a relationship and wellness specialist with more than 20 years of experience. She has worked with individuals leading companies and organizations to guide them on the development of their authentic communication and engagement skills. Kristy is currently a mentor of the Chicago cohort of the National Rise Together Mentorship Network program, which is called Rise. And then she's also a certified trauma healing facilitator, a Gallup strength coach, and she is the executive director of City Impact in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so we're so excited to have her on the show with us today. Welcome, my sister Kristy. Thank you for being here.
Well, hello, Jocelyn. It's so good to be here. It's so good to be here again with you.
Yes, I thank you for accepting the invitation and for being so bold to talk about your testimony. There's healing in sharing one's testimony, and so I'm thankful for that. And tell us a little bit about yourself growing up, your life growing up, and when did you first start struggling with your weight?
Yeah, so I'm a preacher's kid. So I've always been in church. I've always been active in the church. My dad's side is the side that's very, I would say, religious, but that's that side of the family, and that's pretty much what we did all of my life. And my mom's side was the side that was more political in nature. And so I've always had these two worlds. And my maternal grandmother was very critical. She was a critical person. I never was overweight growing up. So let me say that before we get into this conversation. But I was an introvert. And as an introvert, I was always cognizant or conscious of how others looked around me. And I always had like this very critical sense of self growing up as a little girl because I wore glasses going into kindergarten. And I'm talking about in the 70s. And that was not necessarily time that glasses as a kid was a societal norm like it is now with kids and people wearing all kind of glasses. That was not the 70s. The 70s was rough on a kid with glasses, especially with my stigma. And so I was always bullied, and I always didn't really think highly of how I looked. And so that played into this whole journey of weight and appearance and look. So that's pretty much how that kind of started.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And at some point along the way, it developed more into some behaviors that developed eventually into an eating disorder. And so tell me about when that shift took place. What happened?
It was really it's really a stupid story of how it started. I was in high school, and in the 80s, it was a lot of campaigns going on in the 80s, societal wise, country wise. One was say no to drugs. Another one was this campaign on television that had to do with eating disorders. And so it was a lot of conversation about anorexia nervosa and a conversation about bulimia. So I'm in high school. My girlfriend and we had a bet, and the bet was who can lose the most weight the quickest. That's pretty much how it started, something like that. She decided that she was going to live the anorexic life. I decided that I was going to live the bulimic life. And anorexia is basically not eating, it's really shunning yourself from eating. Bulimia is more of kind of binge eating. You eat, but you have a compulsion. And so you eat things and then you regurgitate them up. I lost the bet because, of course, if you're not eating, you're going to lose weight. And so she won a bet, and we didn't bet anything. It was just who can do it. Well, that carried into, I didn't know that it was going to carry into the majority of my life as a teenager, as a young adult, and as an adult. And so that's pretty much how my eating disorder started. It started from a bet, but it also was a thing where I felt that I can eat what I want and I can get rid of it. And so my disorder came from the sense of I loved food. Remember, I never was really overweight. I was a very average size growing up as an African American young woman, but I still had this crazy stinking thinking in my head about image and how I looked. And so me being able to eat what I want and getting rid of it, that was just how I operated. That's how I lived.
It sounded like for a while you was like, "Okay, this is cool. This is a win. I get to enjoy and keep my weight." But when did you realize that it was like a problem?
After high school, I worked and I went to college, and I just noticed that when I was stressed or when I was feeling bad about something, or if I was in relationships, and not just relationships with an opposite sex, but just friendships or different things that was going on in my life, I would do a lot of binge eating and I would get rid of it. And so it became like this system of a sort that I created for myself to feel better about eating. So food, remember I love food, but I also had a strange relationship with food. It was like a love hate type of thing. And I didn't want to gain weight. I remember when I was going to prom and I ordered a dress from New York. And that was the first time that it really became very critical to me in my mind because I couldn't gain any weight because the dress was getting shipped. I couldn't gain any weight 2 months. And so I thought to myself, well, Kristy, you could still enjoy food, but you could get rid of it too. And so I noticed that I kind of amped up my activity of eating, binging, and throwing it up. And it got to a point where I recognized I was pretty much doing it. I started doing it like maybe a couple of times a week. And then I noticed that I started doing it like every other day. It doesn't matter if I'm eating at home. It didn't matter if I was eating out with friends. I would find a way to get to a bathroom and to get rid of what I ate. And I felt fine with that until my throat started, getting sore. And I realized I didn't want to go to the doctor or anything like that because no one knew that I was doing this. And I just decided, okay, Kristy, you probably shouldn't do this every other day. Let's push back on that. And so after graduation, I'm in my 20s. I'm starting a career, and I'm doing different things in life. I'm moving and shaking, and this was just a normal thing for me to do. And so I went from every other day to back to maybe a couple of times or 3 times a week to sometimes maybe twice a week, sometimes once a week, but it was never a month I didn't do it at various times. And so when my body started having a type of reaction to me always regurgitating or throwing up my food, like my throat. And I'm a singer too, and so that's one thing that I was like, okay, Kristy, that's a no-no. You need to kind of like stop that. Then I started doing it, and then it became a thing where, when you throw up, your eyes get teary, your eyes get red because you're doing something that's not really natural for your body to experience. And I would do that, and I would come back out into a population, whether it was family or being out, and people would notice, like, Kristy, why are your eyes so red? Or what's wrong with you? Why are you looking like that? Well, you get blushed and all of that because you're doing something that's a little bit abnormal for your body. I shouldn't say a little bit, but it is abnormal. And so I recognized that people were starting to notice signs, started to notice physically how I was looking, and that really scared me. I would lie and I would say things like, oh, I was just blowing my nose real bad, or something, caused my eyes to water, or I was sneezing, or I would make up something so people would know that I just got through throwing up. So this went on for years. It played a part of my life. Now I'm 52, but I can honestly say it was a part of my life well into my 30s when I was married. I started to just notice when the activity would happen. And that's how I started putting a pattern together, like when I'm stressed out or when I'm something is happening that's a little off, or when I'm feeling like I'm being challenged, or I started putting those pieces together. And especially when I was getting married, because it reminded me of proms, right? Prom and not needing to gain weight. And so you have to keep your weight at a certain thing, or lose your weight, or a certain look that I wanted to have. And so my fiance at the time didn't know. My husband didn't know, ex-husband now, but at the time he didn't know. And it really played into my marital life, probably about 4 years in. And then my husband at the time started noticing, why did why did you go to the washroom sometimes, and it don't be where I'm playing it off. It's more of a thing of, I get right up. I will eat and get right up and go to the washroom. And he started questioning that. And I still was lying and trying to hide it. But then after a while, I just came clean and just was like, I throw my food up. And sometimes, I lied, and I would say, something just didn't sit right in my stomach, or I played that off for a little bit, but then that didn't even work. And so I just had to come out and tell him, like, this is what I do. And then it became a conversation of, how long has it started? And I got into that, and I felt very, very ashamed. I felt very bad. And I made promises to him, which they were really lies. But I would make promises to him, like, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. But I would just be a little bit more clever in how I did that.
There are certain moments in life that wreck us. Whether it's the unexpected loss of a loved one, divorce, betrayal, or abuse at the hands of someone who was supposed to protect us. Trauma can completely shatter our world. Now, many of us have heard that time heals all wounds, but time without the proper care for our emotional wounds will leave us feeling stuck at the source of our pain. We might be able to hide our pain from others, but deep down inside, we know it's still there. If you are tired of running from your past, I encourage you to take one courageous step and schedule a free informational session with a member of our counseling team. Our Christian counselors can provide a safe, supportive environment to process and heal your pain. They understand how difficult the healing journey can be and will walk alongside of you the entire way. Stop running from your past. It's time to heal. Visit faithonthejourney.org for more information on how you can get started today.
I think for someone who's struggling with anything, eating disorder, some other form of addiction, there is a shame that's associated with it, and the secrecy. But at some point, you you made a shift, I'm assuming, where you were like, I have to deal with this.
Yeah. And so it probably was when I turned 40 when I decided to really look at me. Um, me as an image, me as a human, what I'm doing to my body. So I never was hospitalized. I would go to therapy for other things in life, which I am a true advocate for. Jocelyn, and you know that, but I'm a true advocate for that. But I never brought this up in therapy. Never. This was always Kristy's little secret. And so I would talk about other things. I mean, and I've had some things in life that would happen, but it never became a thing of where my eating disorder became an issue to want to talk about that. And so I decided, Kristy, you need to really deal with this. And first, it was really recognizing, what are the triggers? What triggered me to do this? Was it looking at something? Was it looking at somebody? Was it looking at a particular outfit that I wanted? What were the triggers, right? And when I've discovered those triggers, then I had to say to myself, okay, you really need to process this out. You really need to, now you know what the root is. And now you need to figure out why this is happening, and how can you mend this? Like, yeah, I could have told my doctor, or I could have went to, and mind you, my doctors didn't even know. I never would tell my doctors this, because I'm still a person that didn't like how I looked. as far as my body image. And so I was always trying to find ways to lose weight. Yes, I worked out, but I love food. And so I stopped eating meat. I became a pescatarian, which only, eat seafood. And then, I would lay off of starches, and then I would lay off of sugars and all of that. But, I'm constantly getting older. And so my metabolism is not like it was when I was in my teenage years or when I was in my 20s and 30s. And so it became a little bit more work for me, which caused a lot of stress. And so then I started trying everything. I tried Nutrisystem. I was on Weight Watchers, which Weight Watchers is a wonderful, wonderful tool. And I did well with Weight Watchers. Actually, with Weight Watchers, I still was a bulimic. I still was throwing up because I would binge. I had a compulsive nature that if I tasted something that I really, really liked, I would eat that thing for days. And that could be if it was going to Panera Bread and they used to have these toffee cookies, I would order a dozen and I would eat those dozen in 2 days, 6 cookies a day. That's compulsive. So I would do things like that, even with Weight Watchers. And I would say, okay, if I'm doing this way, then what I'll do is I will sacrifice some days and not eat or do something else. So I will always have like my own little crazy, stupid system of me losing weight. So Weight Watchers, a Nutrisystem, I used to Slim Fast. I did it all. I was on Phentermine. I was on the weight loss pill. That was amazing. I mean, it served me well. Okay. But even with that, I still was causing harm to myself by throwing up. I knew that this was something that was mental. This was something that I had to really, really get a hold of. I just, after trying everything, it was just like, okay, I really have to settle in on really doing the work. Yes, exercising, but Kristy, really look at what you're eating. Okay, really setting some boundaries for what I like. Okay. And really being okay with treating myself to something that I do like, just not overdoing it. Now, that took years. I'm 52. Remember, I started like reflecting at 40. So it took me a while. It took me about 8, 10 years, 50, for me to get a real good grip on me eating, me being consistently well with not binging and throwing up what I ate. And so I can honestly say that now with a lot of different tools. So one is being honest about it, discovering the root of it, noticing that when I am in those hard places that I need to work through them and not cause any harm to myself. Talking to my cousin, who was wonderful with having these conversations with, because she got it. She understood the pressure of image. And so I started to talk about it. I started to really talk about it in total and really be vulnerable about that. Not vulnerable. Now, I didn't talk to my therapist, but I talked to somebody that I really trusted. I started having conversations about this actually within the past year, openly about this and pushing down that shame of it and just saying, Kristy, this is an issue. So let's talk about it. I mean, you're not the only one going through it, because I used to think this was a white person's issue. I never known a person of color to go through anything like this. And so when I got over that crazy stigma of sorts of that this is, a white person situation, to realize that there's more people doing it. I found out throughout the years that my sister's girlfriends were doing it. I found out that there were people that I knew and I have known for years that were doing the same thing or have another type of eating disorder that they had experiences with. So when I recognized that this was not just a me issue, that this was really an issue that is a mental illness across the board, then I felt like, oh, okay, well, I need to really hone in on this. And so I started doing that within this past year. I started really honing in on the fact, like, Kristy, yep, you're going to always have these thoughts of wanting to rid yourself of food, especially when I go out to eat, which I have really pull back from doing too. I don't eat out as much as I used to. So I cook more for myself. I cook healthier things for myself, and I feel good about it because I'm a firm believer in stuff tasting good. Taste is my number one thing, and that also too can be a trigger for me. Even in that being a trigger, I still work through that, and I work through that in various ways that I'm able to now not able to binge eat or eat compulsively. And then, but it took a long time. It took from me being the age of 16 to 51.
Wow. Yeah, Kristy. It's been quite the journey, but I hear you now speak so confidently. It's like the shame is no longer holding you, and you're at a place now where you're helping others with their weight loss journey too. You're taking people on the ride with you. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so because I'm a person that still enjoys food, the smell of certain foods that I don't eat anymore. My body is older. My body is adjusting to new things, and so um, I've come to know that there are products and things that I can still use that's more healthier. And so remember, I've used every type of diet, every type of plan, every type of everything out of these years and living on this green earth. But I started using a product called Arbonne. Arbonne, Arbonne. Arbonne is a product that specializes in plant-based, but also being a green product. And so everything to it is it's like it's vegan, it's gluten free, it's cruelty free. And so from the protein powder that I drink to the mental health powder that I take to the fizz that I take for energy or focus, and some of the green powder that I take that really helps me with my vitamins that I need throughout the day. This product, it tastes great. It tastes good. I love the way it makes my body feel, and that's very important, especially when it comes to certain energy powder and drinks. It doesn't make me jittery or doesn't give me like this crazy outlandish energy that you just want to bounce off walls. It just gives you a nice focus. And so the product, I was introduced to it last year, and I've been using it ever since. I just love it. And so that, coupled with me cooking more, not eating out, especially at restaurants, because it has a lot of high sodium, even though those foods are great. But I have high blood pressure. So having high blood pressure, which is genetic, I've learned that I have a very sensitive palate to salt. And so the food might be great, but my body don't like it. And so I take the high blood pressure stuff to kind of keep my body contained, keep it well. I take a water pill that helps. But with the Arbonne product, coupled with me cooking more and eating better, it gives me a very good, healthy lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's just an aid to my life. And since I've been on it and since I've been on this journey, I don't binge. I don't even have a taste for things that I normally would enjoy. Now I'm going to be honest with you. I still would probably go to a store and get a bag of Cheetos because I like a crunch. Okay. But I don't eat all of the Cheetos. I could just eat a couple of them and I'm good. And for me, that's huge. I used to be a coffee drinker every day, all throughout the day. I don't even drink coffee. If I do drink coffee, it's just a half a cup. And that's probably maybe twice a month. That's it. So the Arbonne product has really changed my palate, and my body is different because the product is vegan. The product does not have all of the US products that it has in its products. And so it's an Australian brand product. By it being outside of the US, it does not put all of those extra things in it. And for that, I so appreciate, and my body so loves it. And it just does well. And with that, especially a person with a mental illness, that's going to always be with me, I believe, for the rest of my life, because I'm always thinking about my weight. Now, that's why I'm working out, and that's why I'm eating well. This is just a part of me, and I know that. And because I know that this is a part of who I am, I'm okay with it. Now I just know how to relate. It's a different type of relation with myself as my mind want to go and think crazy, or if I eat a slice of pizza, not freaking out and wanting to get rid of it. I say this pizza is good. I'm going to continue to let it digest in my body, and it's all right.
Amen. Yeah, you enjoyed that pizza. Yes, and I wanna ask a follow-up question, particularly around Arbonne and how it, parallels to anyone who might be on their recovery journey from a disorder, eating disorder. How important has the community, the supportive community been in your wellness journey in terms of making sure you don't relapse?
Yeah. So now that I am a part of the Arbonne community, I would say it's a great community. So if any of you have ever done Weight Watchers and you used to go to the meetings and all of that kind of stuff, it's kind of like that, but it has an extra component to it because you have a lot of women that have a lot of different backgrounds, different struggles. I'm not the only one in the room that have an eating disorder, and so they usher in this family orientation. They really make you feel like you're a part of us, like we're all in this together. And if you're having those moments, I have a very good support system with the person that brought me on to Arbonne. Her name is Molly. She encourages me every day, and I often would call her and tell her, girl, okay, I didn't eat, like I should have today. I did go out to eat and I had this. And she would just say, girl, it's okay. It's all right. It's fine. Just did you enjoy it? Yes, I did. Did you keep it? Yes, I did. And so she's just the Arbonne community is just a community that's family. And that's a difference. It's not just a support group, it's family. You become a part of them, and they make sure that you really understand the product. They make sure that you really are doing well to a healthy life, not just wanting to diet and lose weight. It's about really eating and being healthy.
Yeah, I love it, and shout out to Molly. I had a chance to meet her. She's such a beautiful person, and some other people from the Arbonne community. It's just like you just feel like just such positive energy, positive vibes, like you wanna do better. So she's such a rock star, so major love to you, Molly. But yeah, Kristy, I love what you shared around community, around giving yourself grace when you want to eat that pizza or eat a Cheeto, no condemnation in that. And so I think that's going to free someone who is here. But I did have one other question for you, especially since our show is all about Christ and our relationship with the Lord. What role does your faith play in helping you in your healing journey from this?
Yeah, so because I was alone with it for so long, I was honest with God with it. I would pray. I wouldn't necessarily pray that God took it away, but I would just pray that I would get to understand me better. And I will always recognize in my prayer that God, you know me more than I know myself. I want to do better and I want to be better. I want to be a better human. I want to be a better woman, a woman of color. I want to be able to be honest and transparent and intentional about my life and what I'm doing, and not ride this train of, wanting to have a quick fix. I just wanted God to really play out my life with me, and knowing that God, and through scripture and through various other meditation practices, just really being intentional and true to who I am in this life, and the people that I meet, the people that I'm around, the people that I hear, that I'm able to be transparent and share my truth to that. There's nothing to me that anybody would feel that I'm being phony with. I mean, this is having a mental illness with an eating disorder is, some might say it's genetic, some might say it's something coming out of trauma. It's nothing really that's too defined with it. Some think it's more, science would say it's more of a biological thing, but it's really, it comes from a place of a certain root, And I know that with everything that a person goes through or a person experience is really thinking about what that root is. And so God, because God knows all roots, I trusted God to say, help me, help me. That's what I did. Like, don't take it away. Like, I didn't pray that. So I will be honest about that. Maybe I should have. But mine was more of like, help me, help me. And it took 51 years for me to come to where I am today to say, I haven't thrown up. I haven't. I'm good. And God, I thank you. I thank you for it took this time, it took all this time to kind of get me to this place. But I've learned throughout this journey that, nothing is easy. And if you're true to yourself and if you're really honest with yourself and know how things have gotten you to a certain point, then that's the first start to healing and the first start to moving forward.
Oh, that's beautiful, Kristy. And for someone who's listening right now, my last question for you is, what words of advice or encouragement would you offer someone who is currently actively struggling with their eating disorder?
Well, one, you're not alone. That's the first thing to recognize. Two, find someone that you really trust. That's easy for you to talk to, that you feel that you won't be judged. I would say do that. Do some work yourself with thinking about, why does this even exist in your life? What has happened? Find your root. Find the root for yourself. Write that out. Therapy will help. So if you have to go to a therapist to talk about it, and although you feel ashamed, you got to work through that. You got to work through the shame of it, because the shame will hold you back. The shame will keep you back. The shame will keep you in silence. Use your voice, because it's something that you can get help for. Me, I took a longer way to do it, but you don't have to. You can reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. Go to intentionallyme.com. Send me a message. I'll have a conversation with you to walk you through that and talk you through that. It's a healing journey, and know that you can get healed from it. Look at me, for real. You can get healed from it. So find the root for yourself. Where does it stem from? What are your triggers? And talk to someone to be able to help you work through that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kristy. I appreciate you. And anyone who is listening, I encourage you to visit her website at intentionallyme.com. There you can reach out to her, learn more about what she's doing with the Arbonne community and so many other great things that she's doing to help people across the country be intentional about their life. Thank you for being on the show with me today, Kristy.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Thank you for the conversation.
Absolutely. And thank you all for tuning in this week. We always enjoy having these authentic conversations to share with you to encourage you on your journey. And if you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast channels, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this message. Also, as Kristy talked about earlier, you don't need to go about this journey alone. If you are looking for a Christian counselor, you found the place to go to. Visit our website at faithonthejourney.org. Again, that is faithonthejourney.org for more information on our counseling services. And so thank you again for tuning into today's episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time. But until then, you keep your faith on the journey. I'll see you soon, family.